US President Donald Trump dashing hopes of extending a 90-day pause on tariffs, saying he plans to stick to the 9th of July deadline. The UK is the only country to have struck a deal so far, while a temporary truce is in effect between the US and China. Mr. Trump says he will start sending out letters to notify trading partners of their tariff rates. He says his administration will consider how a country treats the United States. With just 10 days to go, Asian nations are racing against the clock to hammer out deals. Thailand, which faces a 36% levy if it does not get a deal, is sending its finance minister to the US for the next 2 days. Seoul, meantime, warns negotiations might need to continue past next week's deadline. South Korea's new administration held its first senior-level talks with the US last week. Discussions reportedly centered around non-tariff barriers as Seoul imposes nearly zero tariffs on Washington. And more, Nick Harper joins us live from Washington, D.C. Nick, Mr. Trump appears to be sticking, at least for now, at least apparently, to that 9th July deadline.
That's right, Wei Su. We heard from Donald Trump at the end of last week that there appeared to be some flexibility, suggestions that he might extend that deadline beyond July the 9th. But then this interview with Fox News after the weekend really doing away with any of those suggestions of flexibility. It seems that he wants to stick to that deadline and really try and force countries to get a deal done in the next 9 or 10 days ahead of that, saying those letters will be going out pretty soon. Those letters which will state exactly how much each country needs to pay, and it'll be tailored for each country, telling them the percentage that will then be imposed upon them and goods that they send from their country into the United States. But I think it's worth bearing in mind just one key quote from Donald Trump that he said towards the end of last week. He said, "We can do whatever we want. We could extend it, we could make it shorter," all of which adds to that uncertainty. Really, no country knows where it stands at this point. One country that has found itself on the receiving end of that uncertainty is Canada. Just a couple of days ago, Donald Trump said he was ending any trade talks with Canada because of its digital services tax. Since then, the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has said that Canada's rescinding that tax, and now it seems that trade talks are back on. But they have a slightly different deadline. Mark Carney and Donald Trump reportedly agreed at the G7 summit in Canada earlier this month that they're working towards the 21st of July. So there is some flexibility, and it could be that Donald Trump decides to impose more on a case-by-case basis.
Or in fact, Nick, he added to that, we could extend it, we could make it shorter, adding his preference was, in fact, to make it shorter. So countries like Thailand and South Korea, before we crossed you, we're discussing how they are trying to rush out a deal before the door slams shut on them. So I take it quite a few countries, not just in Asia, will be rushing to try to make that deal.
Well, absolutely. And that, of course, is part of Donald Trump's tactic, that brinksmanship, really trying to push countries into this now or never type situation. And we've seen some Asian nations sending trade representatives here to try and fast track some talks. We know that Thailand is sending its trade minister here. We're expecting a conversation to take place on Thursday this week as they push for a trade deal. South Korea is looking for an extension. They are saying that they are currently negotiating in good faith and therefore asking for an extension beyond all of this. Because remember, Donald Trump promised 90 deals in 90 days. So far, with that deadline expiring in 9 or 10 days, we've only had one deal with the UK. There is a framework deal when it comes to China. There's been discussions about moving things forward with India, but we're told that agriculture and dairy products seem to be the sticking points there. And as for Japan, even though they are continuing talks, over the weekend, Donald Trump expressed his displeasure with Tokyo, suggesting that he would keep the 25% tariff on Japanese cars in place, irrespective of what takes place during negotiations.
Thanks for that. Nick Harper there reporting live, 10 days to go to the deadline from Washington, D.C.